9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Welcome to the Alien Probe Podcast. When we began our Freedom of Information request for this document, we thought that the report itself should be pretty easy to get to the National Archives. We were mistaken. The archives did not have a copy and informed us that the Durant report was in the custody of the CIA. We filed FOIA reports with the CIA, and the CIA did have the documents in their custody, in fact, several versions of it. This was released by CUFON, the Computer UFO Network, a report of Scientific Advisory Panel on Unidentified Flying Objects, convened by the Office of Scientific Intelligence, the CIA, on January 14th through 18th, 1953. The Durant report of the Robertson panel proceedings. Joining me today again is Dr. Bill. How you doing, Bill?
Hey.
You there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey.
Hang on, let me just fix something.
It's got some technical difficulties.
Here.
Okay.
I touched something. There might have been a small cutout there. Because I touched something. Sorry. I touched a button.
Yeah. Shall we start again? You want to start?
No, keep going.
Okay.
We'll fix it.
Right.
It's either there or it's not. So.
Okay. Hopefully I haven't lost too many people at the beginning.
Yeah, well,
this is an interesting report. I mean, shall we talk about the movie first?
The UFOs Are Real, the 1979 documentary that's on YouTube.
You know, it's an hour and a half. I thought it was a little shorter, but it was really interesting. It had a lot of... it had Travis Walton in it. It had Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
The real ones, not just...
Well, it had Barbara. Is it Barbara Hill? Had
the wife.
The wife. The other guy had passed
Betty.
on at that point.
Betty Hill.
Benny.
Barney and Betty.
Betty Hill was in
Betty
it.
Hill.
Yep.
Betty.
Barney wasn't there because he had passed away. He had died.
So, that was really interesting. We had a lot of the people we've been talking about over the episodes.
Yeah.
They had a lot of UFO footage that was really good, not just... and looked real and was determined to be... looked real. I mean, it's hard to say if it's real because you can't put your hand on it. But as real as it can be with the technology that existed at the time.
Yeah. There's
flying saucers.
Yep. Yeah. There's lots and lots of pictures and videos and different things. But this is also all this stuff had come out after Project Blue Book was shut down in 1979. So there's no official analysis, no government analysis or anything of this stuff.
So I sent you a picture of that alien.
The stuffed alien?
Yeah, okay, so there's the deal. BarkBox, which is not a sponsor, by the way. I mentioned BarkBox. BarkBox, we get a monthly. My wife has no children of her own. So the dogs are her kids. And she gets a BarkBox every month. Uh-huh. And in the BarkBox has snacks and treats and
is it bark?
Animal.
Bark?
Bark, like bark.
Okay.
Yeah. And so she gets this thing and she goes, "You got to see this." The one they sent us. It's called Alien Gnawtopsy. Like gnaw. Alien Gnawtopsy. I have to look at the label.
Yeah.
And it's soon for YouTubers we'll have everything on video, but for now. And it's got an alien. It's got like a sliced open stomach.
Yeah, I thought it was just like a cross or an emblem or something. Yeah, I can see that.
If you look at the top right of the picture, it's got the guts of the alien. So you stuff the guts.
Oh, that purple thing. The purple thing. Okay, yeah.
That's the guts. You put the guts inside the alien so the dog can pull the guts out of the alien. It's bizarre.
What a great toy. You should give this to children.
Yeah, I think I need to. I think we're going to put it on the website. I'm going to have it with Max pulling out the guts, and I'll just.
Oh, that's.
It's
someone's having way too much fun with this stuff.
Oh man, it's good. It's big too. I said, man,
Yeah.
it's the biggest toy we've ever gotten. So of course Max wanted it, so I had to get it from the dog, and then I put it in the office. So it was just kind of funny.
Before he destroys it.
Yes. So let's talk about the Robertson report and CUFON, which I did not know that the C can make computer. I had to look at it. I go, what is CUFON?
Oh, yeah.
He called it the Computer UFO Network on the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So, and they're no longer around, right?
I guess. That was put together by I can't remember his name. Some guy. He worked with.
This report.
Yeah. Well, he worked with. I'm looking for the things we got.
Dale Goody. Dale Goody is the CUFON. Is the one who's initiating.
He worked with CUFOS. So
CUFON.
Well, this guy, I can't remember the guy's name. It was Smith or something. I have his obituary here somewhere in my pile of papers. But he actually worked with, he was like a friend of Hynek, the guy that did, I think, the Computer UFO Network.
Yeah, he did CUFON, right?
Yeah, he did CUFON, and he was putting together a computerized a database for this, and I think a bunch of people have done that, but I haven't seen any sort of...
yeah, because it's the CIA, because I've got the letter from him.
Well, there's
from the CIA.
Well, that was CUFOS, MUFON. I can't keep track.
They redacted the address.
Well, like CUFON, it's in here, but it's you can't. I mean, the site's there. It's up. It's got a lottery. CUFON, UFO Computer UFO Network. It's got a bunch of names: Webmaster Chris Lambright, Information Director Dale Goody, SysOp Jim Klotz. So yeah, there was the idea was, I think this was the guy. I can't see his. It's
from 1994 though.
Yeah, well, the guy that started this, I think he worked with Hynek, and the idea was just to get this stuff into computers so that it was searchable database, and they could do relational stuff with it. And I mean, nothing's really come from these analysis and stuff. I mean, it's you can't do much. It's like the Galileo project is saying they're going to use the new AI stuff, which can look for relationships that we don't necessarily see. That's something that's fallen out from this AI programs that they use now for like facial recognition and stuff.
Right.
Facial recognition has gotten pretty powerful. Because when I came back from Europe, you go to the global entry station, and you don't even, it used to be you would put your hand down to read your fingerprints, and you'd put your passport down to read your passport. Right. Now you just point the camera at your face and push a button, and then it spits out all your information.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, yeah, it was so wild. I mean, I go in there and go, okay. So they got a sign up that says, everything has changed. And you do it, and it just spits it out. It's got your name, all your information, and then you just go through passport control. You just hand it to the guy, and he says, happy days, and you just walk through. So.
Oh my God, that's bizarre.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Did you have to? You didn't have to take a COVID test or anything?
I did on the way back. Yeah, I bought one. You do it online, so it's like it depends on the airline. The airline I was flying on. If you're flying on American Airlines and you do this test, which was the Abbott test, they will report it to the airline, so you don't have to worry about paperwork or anything.
Yeah.
I was on Delta or in KLM. So all I did was just print out the verification from the Abbott Laboratories or whatever affiliates doing the thing for the test.
If you're flying domestic, did you have to do that?
No,
you
no, you don't.
Because I'm going to Florida in a week. So.
No, you don't worry. You just got to wear a mask the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a big deal.
Flying first class, man.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
You splurging?
My wife's she's really cheap. So, I don't want to brag, but it was like, I wanted to just try it. I mean, it's not something we would do every time we fly, but I wanted to for one time, I thought, you know what, I want to just for one. It'll probably be no different.
It's a little different. You get the board early. I don't know what they used to give. You get drinks.
So.
You get drinks. I mean, you'll sit there, and then I've done it a few times. They'll give you. I've been bumped to first class. They'll give you. They'll bring you a drink while you're sitting there, and while everyone else is boarding. You have your own steward or stewardess, which for first class, which oftentimes isn't that large, whereas they have like 2 people for the 100 people behind you. So it can be nice. Yeah,
really. I just want it for the room, and it's a little roomier, right? So
Oh no, you'll have. It's a nice way to go. It's the problem is when I was flying all the time, they would bump me every once in a while, and they always bump you on your outgoing trip. So you have this very sort of luxurious experience on your way out, and then on the way back, they'll stick you in cattle class. So it's like the psychology is
cattle class.
Yeah, and then so it's like when you're flying back, you're going, oh, it was so nice flying out, and now I'm stuck in this. And when you're taller, I'm stuck in this little tiny seat. So that happened to me a bunch of times.
Well, Debbie's small, so she's like, this really has no bearing on me.
Yeah.
Everything seems big to me.
Yeah.
So I go, well, that's good.
You'll like it. It's worth it. It's worth doing it. It's fun.
So the Robertson panel, what's this all about? What's this? I read the whole thing. I read the whole. A lot of it's lot of redacted secret information, but there is some. It does discuss what they were, what they were trying to do, right?
So from the Ruppelt book. They had reached the point. So the UFO stuff has been going on for 6 years, and I think Ruppelt was getting ready to leave. I guess his mandatory enlistment was up. So they had this meeting with to evaluate UFOs and with the CIA. I guess it was a CIA thing to determine if there was a national security issue with UFOs. Right. And so this happened. I have 2 different reports.
Yeah, the larger, I went through both of them. The smaller one is just is the same.
Yeah, it's like a summary. It's a brief. Yeah, it briefly. But
I went through the entire. I went through the entire report.
Yeah,
and it was interesting.
Well, one of the things that I noticed is in. This is not the report that Ruppelt saw. I think that he quotes in his book, because there's a paragraph in the Hierarchy Ponders. He says, the scientists spent the next 2 days pondering a conclusion. They reread reports and looked at the 2 movies again and again. They called other scientists to double-check certain ideas that they had, and they discussed the problems among themselves. They then wrote out their conclusions, and each man signed the document. The first paragraph said, "We as a group do not believe that it is impossible for some other celestial body to be inhabited by intelligent creatures, nor is it impossible that these creatures could have reached such a state of development that they could visit the Earth. However, there is nothing in all of the so-called flying saucer reports that we have read that would indicate that this is taking place." And this paragraph isn't in any of these reports that have been released. So my conclusion is we have not seen the full Robertson report. This is just the remnants of the stuff that's survived through.
Well, they redacted. It looks like it's severely redacted. I mean, when they show secret in parentheses, those weird squiggly parentheses. Yeah. They've redacted a certain portion of it that they weren't letting us see.
Well, they did release.
If they don't believe anything, I think what it is they're the whatever higher ups are concerned, about the public losing their minds if they think that something real is going on with UFOs. I mean, I think that's the crux to the whole. They're trying to debunk the entire subject of flying saucers and aliens, extraterrestrials, and that kind of thing.
Well, that's one of the things that, it's they looked at everything and they said, it's crap. Yeah. It's all crap. We don't believe any of it. Did you see the part about, one of the panel members in his presentation showed how he had eliminated each of the known and probable causes of sightings, leaving him extraterrestrial as the only one remaining in many cases. And that was Dewey J. Fornett.
Oh, yeah.
And
Dewey.
Yeah. And he was interesting because he was also instrumental in the shutdown of NICAP in the early 70s.
Really?
But he was a strong proponent and believer that the UFOs were extraterrestrial. Yeah, now there's some strange stuff that's sort of come through. And this report is also the reason that I think like Hynek and other UFO people believe that there is a active cover-up of UFO stuff because of the education component that they wanted to pursue.
Right.
So, but yeah, I was looking through. One of the things I did is I went through and I looked up all the people that were on the panel. It's an impressive panel.
Yeah, definitely. That's what they were doing. The director of the CIA enlisted the service of selected scientists to review and appraise the available evidence in light of the pertinent scientific theories.
Yeah, well, they had Howard P. Robertson. He was a Caltech professor and a CIA analyst or something. Alvarez, who had the Nobel Prize in physicist. He worked on the Manhattan Project, worked with Fermi at University of Chicago, radar expert. Him and his son developed the hypothesis that that giant meteor wiped out the dinosaurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Awesome stuff.
That's big.
S.A.
Big.
Goldsmith is a physicist, Manhattan Project. Thornton Page. A lot of these people, it's funny because it's hard to find information on. Thornton Page, I've read some stuff about him, but I don't remember what it is. He was at University of Chicago physicist, astrophysicist. Philip G. Strong, retired general. He has the only thing I could find is that he's got his collected papers on espionage at some university. Oh, yeah. So he was a CIA person. Frederick C.E. Oder, Air Force VP of Lockheed. Stevenson, I couldn't find any information on him. Lloyd V. Berkner was a physicist, rocketeer, no affiliation with anything. Atmospheric scientist, so he's a CIA guy.
Yep.
And then Ruppelt, Hynek, Fornett, Harry B. Smith might be the Canadian UFO guy. I'm not sure. And Stefan Posny, who was at intelligence officer, Hoover Institute, Space Policy. He's also a bit of a spook. So, yeah, a really interesting group of people. And they seem to be, everything they said, it was very negative on everything. So, sort of interesting. They reviewed, I guess they did this for 3 days. So they were there for...
They went through Saturday. Thursday through Saturday.
And they saw they did Project Twinkle, which was the blue or the green fireballs. That was Oder gave the Air Force VP Lockheed. That's interesting. I don't know why it's interesting.
Yeah, Twinkle only lasted a year. I was reading about that.
With the green fireballs?
Yeah, they didn't really. Yeah, they did. Well, a year's a long time. But, the government, you trudge through these things.
Yeah, they always take everything. Hynek prepared paper making certain observations and conclusions. What else? Friday afternoon, Hynek presented Lloyd V. Beckner as panel member, progress meeting, blah, blah, blah. Recommendations. Saturday morning. 7.
Yeah, so they...
Yeah? Yeah?
So, the panel members were impressed. in the lack of sound data. The great majority of the case history is also in the lack of speedy follow-up due to the primarily modest size and limited facilities of the ATIC section. And that was Ruppelt's. He was the head of ATIC, right? Wasn't he? Or he was
he wasn't. He was the ATIC is a larger organization. He was in charge of Blue Book, so he's under their umbrella.
So they discussed what they considered significant sightings. The Bellefontaine, Ohio, August 1952, and Great Falls, Minnesota, 1950, and Yak, Montana, 19. So all these through it was like a year. It was like they evaluated through 1 year of sightings, and so that they didn't have too broad a spectrum to have to deal with. I mean, we didn't talk about Roswell. We didn't talk about that.
Oh yeah, I started reading. I've been delving into Roswell a little bit. I started reading this book, Witness to Roswell, by Carey and Schmidt.
Yeah.
Apparently, Schmidt has written 2 other books on Roswell. I've ordered those, and those are coming in with another guy. And the other guy, apparently, they had a falling out because Schmidt had lied about his background. He said he had
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think it's that big a deal. He apparently, according to this, I guess it was like a Roswell debunking site, or they were saying that he worked as a postman, and he said he had a master's. I don't know if he has a master's or not, but he said he was doing his PhD. But then, but the school that he said he's doing his PhD doesn't give out PhDs. So I don't know. But it's like he had some falling out with this other guy that he wrote the 2 other books. There's 2 other Roswell books, which I think are very similar to each other. And then there was a Friedman, who's a physicist, wrote a Roswell book, another one which I just picked up. So I'll look into Roswell. Yeah, Roswell's fascinating, but who knows?
Yeah, well, that's what they talked about on that movie as well. They talked about the Roswell crash and
that was
witnesses. I mean, it's pretty compelling.
Yeah, it was really. just coming out. Yeah, that was when the 1980s when the first Roswell paper book came out, where they talked about that. Yeah, that movie was pretty cool. Although it did have a couple issues with it. One of them was that one guy who's talking about the sightings in Alaska. He was very enthusiastic about UFOs, retired colonel or something.
Yeah.
And he's talking about Willie Myers in Switzerland. Willie Myers is probably a fraud. And one of his videos of a UFO that he says he communicates with, and he goes up in him and all this other stuff, and he started a religion.
Oh.
Wow. One of his UFO videos is actually laughable because you can tell it's you can't see the string, but it's like, how something wobbles when you swing it around. Yeah. It's got the wobble, and it's like, oh my God, it's just so obviously fake. But yeah, if I go back to Switzerland, maybe I'll try and look up his church or something. That might be interesting.
We should start our own.
Yeah. Hey, it's been done, though. So it's done at least a couple times. There was that stuff that I got from when I picked up that book on those guys. Where is it? The guys from Unbroken Promises, with the guys that took off from the army base in Germany, and they went to Pensacola. Yeah. And that was all
Gulf Breeze 6.
Yeah, and it was all around the other Gulf Breeze stuff, which we've been looking into.
Yeah,
and that had pamphlets. That was some sort of spiritual center where they had contact with UFOs and lengthy. I got a great rambling speech that the space aliens gave to the people at the UFO center about man landing on the moon.
Wait, they were at the church of.
Well, what it is they
what do we call it? The ufology, Church of Ufology.
I don't know.
Scientology.
I got too much crap here. I need to. I can't put my finger on the pamphlets right now. They're buried somewhere.
Did they come with you with your books?
Yeah, the guy that I guess this spiritual center went out of business, or the people died, and everybody's dying. And it's like when we look at this stuff, all these people are dead. So it's like we're trying to research stuff from 70 years ago or longer, and it's just like, everybody's dead. And that was one of the issues in the Roswell book, where the latest one that I'm reading, Witness to Roswell, they're saying it's, they're racing against time because everybody's dying. And this was written in the 90s. So here we are 20 years later, and it's like, all right. So it's like digging up the past. It's like trying to find old government documents. So the spiritual center, the guy had, I guess the people had died, and things went into storage, and then what happens is people don't pay the storage fees, and they go to auction. And this guy bought a storage unit, and it had the library from the spiritual center.
Oh, how cool would that be?
Oh, yeah. He had. I bought the book on Broken Promises from him, and he sends pamphlets from the spiritual center because he's probably got thousands of them. So he'll send like a little extra thing with him for you if you're to look at it. So we'll spend some time with it. I'll dig those out. We'll talk about those at some point.
Do you have the Roswell incident?
I have Witness to Roswell, and you mean the old paperback? Which I just read that.
Yeah, the Roswell incident is. I got it.
Yes.
I thought you gave it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it. I got it. I just read it. It's a quick read.
How was it?
It's good. It's actually really good. It's worth going through. I had a few critiques, but nothing. Not a big deal. But then I started going into. I got the latest book, which was Witness to Roswell, revised, updated with intriguing new evidence, revised and expanded edition. And that one I've slowly started reading it. That one looks pretty good. And then I got the older ones just to look at, to compare it to the newer stuff. But apparently the previous two books by Schmidt are you don't necessarily need to read them because this book will cover all that information. I just got them for comparison. And
we did the Einstein episode we just did. I mean, how does that compare with the lady's interview
with her information?
Roswell?
I don't know.
Yeah, did they have the amount of? I'm going to read it, but I mean,
I haven't gotten that far yet. Even the Roswell incident book, I don't know if I wasn't paying attention. I don't know if they have specific numbers in it. I'm just looking at the index. In that movie they talked about the Twining memo.
Right.
Yeah, we should look at that. Well, that was people really go back to that quite a bit. It might be in this book. As we're going all over the place. Might be in the
Twining memo.
Yeah, it might be in the appendix of this book. So, no, I'm not going to mention it. But yeah, that apparently people took that as a big deal for evidence for UFOs.
It'll be interesting as we go through Roswell. I mean, I'm going to take the interview from, and I don't have her name in front of me. Shirley Wright.
Yeah, the lady.
Shirley Wright interview that was at Roswell. I mean, I'm almost going to take that as the truth at this moment. Because I know we talked about it like last week, but that's going to be the basis for any other Roswell.
You want to use that? You want to use that to build on?
Yeah. I'm just kind of thinking it to compare, to what she said compared to what, I don't know what the other Roswell books are going to say, but I mean. Yeah,
I think that's actually a good idea. I think that's a really good idea.
The 9 aliens and the condition of the craft and the communication and just the basic things. I mean, but like you said, that's typical of the 50s.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
So it's the chicken and the egg story. My papers and notes are a disaster. It's a chicken and egg story. It's like is this because people saw these things and talked about them and it got integrated into the culture and into the entertainment media, or is the entertainment media infecting people, inspiring people with ideas on how to spin a tale.
Yeah. The bark box toy has a big head and small body and big eyes.
Yeah.
It does have a mouth looks like a mouth that's open though, so it's not really, exactly like the description, because it has a mouth and it's got a little smiley face while it's getting its guts out.
Well, they want it to be cute, so it looks cute. So.
And its eyes have those little dots like the Disney.
Yeah.
Or,
the little shiny thing.
Shiny, like it's like ah.
So yeah.
So everything's revolved around that, whether it be true or not. But really, with Roswell and the Robertson report,
Robertson.
Really, the panel's concluding unanimously that there's no evidence, like you just said, of direct threat or national security on the object sighted. I mean, they're just unexplained phenomena in their opinion. I mean, they're not really saying that it's got a direct relation, that it's proof that there's UFOs out there,
Yeah, and I've read this stuff a couple times, and the report, and it's like looking at the Roswell site, the Roswell debunking site. The stuff, I was looking at the stuff for the Witness to Roswell critiques, just to glance over it, and I looked at some other stuff, like saying Schmidt, he had a falling out with his first author that he wrote books with, and they were saying a bunch of stuff, but it's a lot of the critiques they're like nitpicking, and this is the irritating system. Well, in the first Roswell book, he said that the thing crashed on July 4th, and in the second Roswell book, he said July 6th. Which date is it? He's made. What's wrong? And it's like, what? Dude, it's 40 years ago. You're trying to work with information from 40 years ago. And then these witnesses, they went back and they interviewed these people, and their story changed. Oh, okay.
Like people do.
Yeah, like people do. Yeah, you change with the multiple recitings, and you sort of fill in the blanks and gaps and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And then it goes. And then they go, and so and this person recanted, but they don't they don't link to the recantation or anything like that. So it's like, I spent some time thinking about debunking, and it's like that just seems to be I don't know what it is. It's just like, people gain joy out of just going, oh, you're wrong. You're wrong. Okay.
No, people do.
How do you know you're wrong?
Like that.
You're just wrong because you said apples when you meant to say oranges, so you're just wrong.
Yeah.
So yeah. So it just
well, the problem is with Roswell, a lot of this Robertson report. You can't, like they say, the absence of any quote unquote hardware resulting from unexplained UFO sightings. They don't have any. You can't put your hand on it.
Yeah, I mean that's
the problem.
That's a big deal. I mean, it's a very big deal. And although we talked about it previously, there have been reports of material coming from UFOs, and some of the stuff has been analyzed. And I would say from the reports that I saw, there was a couple samples that were interesting. Like one of them they were saying that was very high quality, I don't know, titanium or something, which is impressive. So who knows? And then another sample, there was something else about it. And then some of the samples were just, they look like slag or something. But then you come back you come back and you look at these things and you get alternative reports on the same thing. It's hard to make out any information.
Titanium's kind of heavy. I don't know if you're gonna have a whole shipment unless it's a high.
Well, there was like a little piece or something that they found, and it was analyzed. They said, well, it's very expensive to make this material, and there was like a piece of something that was a laminate steel.
Yeah.
So, No artifacts is what they're talking about. The films, they spent a lot of time. I thought it was interesting that the who was it? The PIL, the Photo Interpretation Laboratory, spent 1,000 man-hours analyzing this film, and they came to this is the professional intelligence interpretation laboratory for the Navy, and then the panel of experts said, nope, it's birds. So I thought that they go, and the PIL said objects sighted were not birds, balloons, or aircraft, were not reflections because there was no blinking while passing through 60 degrees of arc, and were therefore self-luminous. And then they had a whole list of critiques of their analysis. But one of the things they did, they said analysis. They said go out to the site where the film was taken and do measurements under similar conditions and do an analysis, and they never did it. So it's easy to throw out a lot of I was seeing this with something else. It's easy to throw out a criticism, but when you say, well, you need to go out to verify the data and everything, and then they never do it. So go out. Oh, I know what I was thinking. It was the Gulf Breeze thing with the reporter was saying they duplicated what the guy did. We duplicated, but they didn't. They weren't able to duplicate what the pictures the guy had taken with the camera he used. They used a different camera under different conditions, and they go, oh, we duplicated what he had done, and we showed that he's a fraud. Well, here this panel was saying, go out and duplicate these conditions, do measurements, compare it to the original film, and then we'll see what that will tell us whether or not what we're seeing is what they're saying it was birds. The PIL was saying it was not birds, but they never did the experiment. They never went out and did that. They just said, no, that's it. We're right. They're wrong. Do the experiment, and then nobody does the experiment.
Yeah, it's methods of obtaining data. Because of unsuitability of the equipment and questionable assumptions.
Well,
it's the same thing.
And then ATIC was talking about placing out those cameras.
Yeah, and across the world or across the U.S.
That Project Galileo is doing something, but with modern, sophisticated cameras with high resolution. But they're saying it was a waste of time. The panel said cameras are a waste of time. And then they were talking about Hynek with there was someone was doing an astronomical study, and Hynek was trying to get them to move their camera to take pictures of a anomaly, and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So
I think they were concerned about when you were talking about placing the cameras across everywhere. They said it would bring too much light of our concern about UFOs and the public's perception of what that would bring. That was one of their concerns about that. They didn't want to. Yeah. They don't want to do that. That's kind of saying that the government thinks they're really real. And people freak out.
Well, that was a big deal, and this was a big critique of the Robertson panel. Well, there's two things that I've run across. One is that they always said the UFO people that were saying that the government was doing a cover-up. They were saying the CIA. Also, they're going. The CIA was involved because in the 1950s, the CIA. Here, I'm going to turn this fan off. This 1960s, the CIA has an office had an office. I don't know if they still do in Chicago, and there were sightings in the area, and people from the CIA office in Chicago were going out and talking to people. And apparently they were identifying themselves as CIA and saying, you shouldn't talk about this. And that actually raised a bit of a stink. And there was a guy that was writing letters to his congressman or senator about this. And this was in the CIA memos, that book on the CIA UFO memos.
Right.
And the guy was writing a ton of letters about this to the CIA, and this guy was just like a thorn in the CIA's behind because they kept going, this guy keeps bugging us about this stuff. We just want him to shut up. So that was sort of a stink in the 50s because the CIA kept saying, no, we're not. Well, the CIA denies everything. So that's their job. They're supposed to, everything, they deny everything. That's their job. And so they said, no, we're not involved in UFOs. So when the Robertson report came out in the 60s, they did a partial release of some of the people that were involved in it. It was like, oh, the CIA was involved in the UFOs. It's proof of a cover-up.
Yeah.
So
because they were asking about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if it's proof of a cover-up, but the big critique.
That's the perception.
Well, yeah, and
the public's perception of everything.
Well, another big issue with this report was the educational program, which was the panel's concept of a broad educational program integrating efforts of all concerned agencies. Was that it should have two major aims: training and debunking.
Yep.
So they, and this comes back to the J.J. Abrams UFO documentary that was just on, I think, HBO or something like that. And they, I think there was 3 episodes of that, and like the second one where they were talking about the misinformation for the stealth program in the 80s, and they drove some guy crazy, and the one guy that used to be a sort of big wheel at MUFON thinks that it's all misinformation at this point about special test aircraft and stuff. And but in that video, they showed a lot of this old footage of like a magician, doing tricks.
Yeah.
And that's that was the basis of the debunking program set up by the Robertson panel, was to, as in the case of conjuring tricks, there is much less stimulation if the secret is known. So what they wanted to do is through their education program, they'll like show you, and they do this because I have these articles from the 1960s, these other UFO magazines from special issues from True Magazine, and it's the walk back. They'll show like the UFO, and then they show you what it really is. It's really a balloon, like that.
A seagull.
Yeah, it's a seagull. It's birds. Well, it's like
they're shiny when you shine the light on them.
Well, one of the big videos that's just been released recently is the rubber duck video, which is like 40 minutes, where a drug interdiction plane is like filming balloons flying around at the border. And that's been getting a lot of, I think Chris Lado was talking about it, and Mike West, maybe, the usual suspects are talking about it. And even Luis Elizondo was saying that he thought it was just balloons. I mean, it's like a cluster of balloons. It's like, but it's been getting a lot of at least YouTube video time on it. So.
Well, what is it? Is it a cluster, or is it? It looks like
a thing of balloons, like you'd pick up in the grocery store, like
a party.
Yeah, and someone let it go, and then the plane was like following it, probably because they got nothing better to do, since drug interdiction doesn't really happen. So
yeah, that the interdiction part doesn't.
No, that never happens.
Happen, but just not the interdiction.
The interdiction, yeah, we spend billions of dollars on drug interdiction, but we can't seem to find any. We can't seem to find anybody involved in it. We don't know what's going on. But we're spending billions of dollars on it.
Really, Bill, we don't want to run out of Coke.
So, no, people are not going to. Yeah, it's not working when if you have enough money, you can order a tractor trailer of this stuff.
Yeah, but we find it every once in a while.
Yeah. So
yeah, like you said, the training name would be to result in proper recognition of unusually illuminated objects, balloons, aircraft reflections, meteors, fireballs, mirages. Yeah, the debunking, is really what they're.
Yeah, I'm eating.
Really, what they're what they're doing.
Well, yeah, and
they
talk about Dr. Menzel, who's a physicist, the astrophysicist or physicist at Harvard, and he's written several debunking books, which I have, and we'll talk about at some point, where he says everything could be explained as various types of light phenomena. Well, I mean, no.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, but the thing that really strikes me is, like, why are they spending... So, if something's not real, why do you need to spend so much time, effort, and money proving it's not real?
Well, the public is... I think there's a lot of pressure from constituents of politicians to...
Yeah.
To analyze I don't want to say a problem, this phenomena, debunking. The aim of debunking is, reduce public interest in flying saucers, which, really today evokes a strong psychological reaction. Which is, I'm quoting, I think.
Yeah. Excellent. Oh, I thought that was you. That was excellent.
Was that pretty impressive? Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not me. I don't have quite the education you do. So... It'd be accomplished by mass media such as television, motion pictures, and articles. But
yeah.
I mean, the more UFO type movies. Do you watch American Horror Story?
No.
Oh, you have. It's turned into an historical alien UFO in the chapter that's on right now.
The latest. The
latest. I don't know if they call it a chapter or whatever they call it. The latest one that's out right
season.
now. Start it from the beginning. They're all tied together, I guess. Brandon and Debbie, if they've watched it from it's been on for quite a while. I mean, it's really actually the last one was like vampire. It was all like kind of vampire based, which I'm not a big vampire fan.
My kid used to watch that, but he stopped after a while.
Yeah, the latest one, I would say skip them and then watch only because it's got some the tie-in between JFK, Marilyn Monroe, and JFK's alleged discussion of Marilyn Monroe about UFOs and her alleged discussion with people about her discussions with JFK on UFOs, and then all of a sudden she gets suicided. I don't want to say she got suicided.
Yeah.
She committed suicide, and but in this, you'll see it in American Horror Story. It's what we all think happened,
Oh.
And then, of course, Kennedy got assassinated because I would not think that it was because of his. But Brandon wants to do. He's fascinated with the conspiracy theory that this is all tied to the UFO discussion, which will make a good episode for us to do together.
Oh, yeah. I'll check it out.
I don't know how much legs it can get with that, but it's interesting. It's an interesting thought. But these guys, the panel. They're suggesting that they put together a panel, right, from this report for analyzing and evaluating reports. They wanted, and I don't know if this ever came to be really, unless you may have looked at this closer, but it was supposed, they wanted to put together, and Hynek, I think, suggested this, or Ruppelt unofficially proposed, for purpose of analyzing and evaluating reports, and it goes through a laundry list, I won't read it all, of department people to investigate.
UFO
sightings.
Is that the one with the?
Yeah, he wants to go like an analyst panel.
Evidence. Are you looking at the? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, and then an ADC liaison, et cetera, and a group leader.
They
had favor. I don't know if that ever came to be. Unless they got tied into Blue Book did Blue Book already have all this?
Well, I think the conclusion that Ruppelt was making in his book was that Blue Book was on the rise. They're going to be doing some serious things after this, and I think he had a really positive take on this panel. and thought it was going to be a boost for Blue Book. But as far as I could tell, it ended up, Blue Book just sort of got minimal budget. They got a couple new directors. We got a book. I think you picked up a copy, which is a debunking book. We should talk about that. Not right now, but was one of the directors of Project Blue Book, where he goes into great depth on the debunking aspect of it. And I'm just... the thing that puzzles me is the effort that so many sort of higher level people went into debunking this. And they talk about in this panel, because they're worried about, they were worried about overwhelming communication lines in case of a Soviet attack. But that went away after a few years, once they sort of like hardened all the communications for the military communications within the country.
Right.
And that was an easy fix, but they still, that other book came out, debunking books, Menzel was still writing them in the 70s. The guy that was running Blue Book after Ruppelt wrote a debunking book with the, I think the blessing of the Air Force, because he's got his title, his rank is in the title. And they go into that. I'll pull that down. We should talk about that soon. But they in the budget, that was one of the big complaints when McDonald was James E. McDonald that asked atmospheric physicist was looking into UFOs and saying something's going on here. His big complaint when he would go to ATIC and talk to people and stuff, he says their budget is abysmal. He used to give Quintanilla, poor Quintanilla, this guy just hammered Quintanilla, Project Blue Book. And, Quintanilla was a lifer officer in the Air Force, and the poor guy, he got stuck with this job, and he's been mandated to, be the major debunker, and he's got this scientist coming in just railing at him because he's not following up on a lot of these reports. There's that one report that I read in the status reports from Blue Books that just stuck with me, was the guy out in the desert near White Sands with the thing that he saw that sounded just like a Spielberg movie. Yeah. And this is a field grade officer, which means he was a major, lieutenant colonel, or a colonel. And this guy, I just can't imagine this guy filing a report. And he was an intelligence officer at a base there, filing a report just for laughs. So that one really stuck with me, because here's this guy, he's driving from point A to point D in the desert, saw this amazing stuff. And this is not...
White Sands?
Yeah. This is the one where the guy, he saw some sort of ship and things landed and lights, and he said he thought it was a military exercise, and it was like something right out of Spielberg's movie. And
I think we talked about, I saw that on YouTube. No. It was on Netflix, and this guy, he was not an officer. He was driven out to... This is a different
case. This is a different one.
Yeah, but it's
similar.
But it's
similar.
But it's White Sands. It's this guy saw aliens, like a family. Yeah. With a little kid.
Hello.
And the kid picks up a soda can, and the mom says, "No, don't drink that.
Don't drink that."
And it's we. I mean, the guy was bizarre. I mean, if you watch the interview, I'll try to find the interview and send it to you. It's the guy's weird. I mean, it's an old interview. It's an old interview, and it's who knows? But White Sands,
I don't know.
White Sands, I think is, and really when Shirley Wright, we were talking about Shirley Wright last week. She mentioned, and it came back to me as I was listening to the podcast. She said that the aliens conveyed that they lived underground. I don't know if you remember that part.
Yeah.
And and that's kind of what I've been visioning, which I don't want to get too weird.
The hollow Earth. Are you coming back to the hollow Earth?
Not hollow Earth, but at White Sands, are they living? Did we?
There's like
excavate as their cave system. I mean, there's rumors already. I don't know if you've heard of a cave system at White Sands or somewhere
No,
out
I haven't
in the
heard
middle
of
of
that.
nowhere. Yeah, so it's, they're living underground, and they're like the ships take off and they just go up. I don't know where they're going. Probably a mothership. I don't know. And man, I don't know if Shatner saw anything, while he was up there for
Yeah,
5 minutes in space.
his 3 minutes of weightlessness. Did you see him interviewed afterwards?
I just briefly, you mentioned that, and the interview I saw was just like 2 sentences.
Oh, well, I saw this was the live thing right afterwards. We were talking to him. It was very, very good. He was very moved by the experience. It was great to see. I mean, the guy was crying. He was so moved by it. He was crying.
He is. Well, he's they kept referring.
I know.
At work about. They kept referring to James Tiberius Kirk goes to space.
Yeah,
like,
it's awesome.
It's awesome. It was badass. It was badass. I mean, I was like, oh wow, I want to see. Back in the day, and I tell people this. I was discussing it yesterday that back in the '60s, they have to have a lot of rocket shots.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad would be late to work, and I would be able to stay and watch the feed for the rocket shot, and be late to school. He'd let me be.
Oh yeah, because they're all
so
East Coast.
So we could see the rocket shot.
Yeah,
and I enjoyed that. My dad was he believed in UFOs and aliens and all that, which is kind of weird because that isn't his demeanor typically.
Yeah.
But he believed, he was what everybody says. Well, it's a big, the galaxy.
He probably remembered in the 50s, we've talked about this before, the 50s, this stuff was all over the radio and they had television shows. We saw the interviews on the early television with Kehoe and Mike Wallace. They made that documentary that we talked about, which was talked about the Washington UFO flap with the guy that was the PR guy at the CHOP. He was a PR guy at the Pentagon.
Albert CHOP.
Yeah, where they did a great dramatization of the F-84 catching up with the UFOs and the pilot going, "What do I do?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want me to do?
What do I do?
I'm right here.
Yeah. I got the bear. What do I do with the bear?
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
But I don't know. There's more on. That I was watching. I caught another show while I was out had my TV on the back. The Russian. There was one of a Russian. I think it was a YouTube segment. Russian. Pilot that discussed how he'd engaged. He went ahead and engaged back in the 60s or 70s. I can't remember what aircraft it was. It was a later aircraft, later jet. And as he approached engaged the UFO, it just shut down everything. It shut down all of his weapon systems.
Oh, that was.
I think
they mentioned that in they mentioned something like that. Was it the Iranian pilot?
Was it in the UFO? Yeah, was it?
Yeah, that UFOs are real. Is 1979 documentary.
Yeah,
yeah, that one.
So
that's a classic.
He was chasing that.
That's a classic.
They interviewed this dude. And it's. I got to say, typically a Soviet pilot wouldn't be one to make this shit up, as we say.
Yeah.
I think he really believed that it engaged a flying saucer.
Well, it's like that report in the status reports, the Blue Book, that old one with that field grade officer at White Sands intelligence officer seeing something. I mean, it's anonymous. They don't give his name or anything. But, a field grade officer is not going to make up some sort of crap story. Why?
No.
So that report, that report really stuck with me because it tells me, maybe there is some. Well, there's a lot of things. There's at least 3 physicists, that have looked into this stuff and are saying there's some sort of phenomenon going on. And they're looking into it now. We're looking into it. So we want to get our own spaceship, get going.
Go check it out ourselves. I remember back in the 70s, my brother and I were wanting. I remember it was so prevalent in the news.
The UFOs?
We wanted, yeah, it was big when we lived, we were down in the Bay Area.
Early 70s.
Yeah, it was.
That was after 72, from what I'm seeing. It's like
we were in junior high. We were in junior high.
Yeah, so it's early. Yeah, so apparently after there was like a big UFO things were happening in the 70s.
Yeah, and it was here. It was in our area. I'd love to resurrect some of the news because we got it from the only source we really had was the newspaper.
Yeah.
And we was reading about it, and then you heard about it on the news.
You had the Tribune. I had to deal with the review, so I didn't see a lot of that in the review. So you saw it. You had the better newspaper.
And the Chronicle.
And the Chronicle. So, you did the Chronicle. The Chronicle definitely. You had the better newspapers. So,
I remember we wanted to build radar. Can we build radar? I mean, we were so serious about this, and it's.
And then your brother did radar. Now he's a radar expert.
Now he's expert at. Now he's a radar expert and working with the Army.
Yeah.
So, it's, I really, that's how I kind of got into it. But it was, but they were there. I mean, it was a big deal. Whatever they were. Who knows what it really was back then? It could have been experimental aircraft.
Well, I mean, it was it was a strange time because 1969 was the final report came out with the Condon report, which said UFOs are nothing, and the government finally shut down Blue Book, and the Condon, that whole thing was obviously that was a mess. The Condon thing was a mess. And then. Carl Sagan was doing stuff about it, and then they had a National Academy of Science, not National Academy, AAAS, American Academy of Arts and Sciences, had a meeting about UFOs in which Hynek and McDonald participated. I have a recording of their talks from that, and so it was in the news. It was a big deal, especially after the Condon report came out. And just basically shut everything down. NICAP was shut down. So it's sort of interesting that the government was shutting all these things down, but then the sightings went through the roof. Yeah. So and then it was in the news even more. At least for your newspapers, I had to stick with the local small town crappy papers. So I didn't see all the good articles. So
all right, we better wrap it up, sir.
Yep. All right.
That's the Robertson report. Basically, we solved. They didn't really solve anything, but it was the report and the attention that we gave to the issue or the possible issue of extraterrestrial.
Well, just to conclude, it's like the Robertson report caused people's to. It shows that the government had an active sort of debunking program for UFOs, and that the CIA was involved, which seemed to be a big deal to people at the time. So
awesome!
All right.
Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us at Facebook at alienprobe.net, Twitter, and Instagram at alienprobepod. Thank you for joining us again, Dr. Bill. I appreciate it. And thanks for bringing the Robertson report to us. And thanks to our senior producer, Robert Anthony. See you next time.
Bye-bye. Can you use that?
Okay, I don't know why. What the fuck? I can't get rid of you.
What? You can't hang up? It's the red guy. It's the guy with the...
I know. It's Dr. Bill, the red guy.
And then there's like a phone with an X.
Oh, here it is. I got it.
You got it? You going to hang up? You going to hang up? Hang up?
Hang it up.
Hang up? All right. Oh, he's gone.